Today's gospel reading is one of the most celebrated moments in Scripture. It's also one of the most Christian stories in the whole New Testament, I think, in a certain sense. We call the moment we heard this morning in the gospel the Annunciation. That's the moment that the angel Gabriel announces to this young woman, Mary, this young girl, Mary, that though she's a virgin, she'll give birth and bear a son, Jesus. This moment has inspired incredible art through the centuries and one of the best rock and roll songs of all time. But I'll get back to that. But if we pull back the layers of myth and meaning that we put on this moment, what's left is this young girl and these incredible words that she says. Let it be. These words, let it be, they are some of the most Christian words. This is one of the most Christian moments in the Bible. And they have every bit of meaning for us, for you today. This young girl had every reason on earth to not say those words, to not say to the angel, let it be. I can't imagine being in her situation, a young girl, no standing in society in the first century, no power to shape her own destiny, every reason to be terrified at a messenger from God, to be skeptical that someone like her could have found favor with God, that in her virginity and in her youth she'd bear a son, and that her cousin Elizabeth in her old age and in her being barren would somehow also be bearing a child. Even more ludicrous than all of that may be the idea that the child of this poor young girl would somehow become king of Israel. She could have responded like her matriarch Sarah did in Genesis and laugh at this announcement. But instead of that, she says these three words. She says, let it be. I think there's a lot of wisdom in Paul McCartney's song, Paul McCartney's take on the Annunciation in the song, Let It Be. As Sir Paul McCartney writes, when I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in my hour of darkness, she is standing right in front of me. And when the broken-hearted people living in the world agree, there will be an answer, let it be. For though they may be parted, there is still a chance that they will see. And when the night is cloudy, there is still a light that shines on me, shining until tomorrow. Let it be. Let it be. This is a strange Christmas for everyone. We're all being asked to sacrifice so much, seeing loved ones having get-together, celebrating the season together as we normally do. Many of our friends and family are sick and in the hospital. And there is a cloud of darkness over our whole country, over our celebrations, over the whole world, as we still don't know how and when all of this will end. And there's the looming question that we might be afraid to ask, that we don't necessarily want to ask. Why is this all happening? And yet, even in this particular hour of darkness that we're in, the Christian answer is still, let it be. How? How could the Blessed Virgin Mary face such a ludicrous and terrifying message from the angel Gabriel? Something that could have threatened her very life if she had been stoned to death for getting pregnant outside of her engagement and marriage. And still she said, let it be. Many years later, when she stood at the foot of the cross and her son was being crucified to death before her eyes, were those still her words? Did she still say, let it be? How can we face this time of hardship and darkness now and say, let it be? Mary knew. Mary knew the character and the nature of the God that she loved and worshipped. She knew that God had been faithful to generations of women before her, that God had looked with favor on Sarah and looked with favor on Hannah, and that God lifted up the lowly and favored the outcast and the poor and the downtrodden. She knew that no matter what happened in her life, nothing could separate her from the unconditional love and faithfulness of the God who was endlessly faithful to God's promises. So even though she surely in that moment could not have known where that message would lead her or what it would mean in her life, she knew that God was in control, and she knew that God was faithful. And I think she knew without a doubt that God favored her, that God loved her, that God had her. That's how we today can say, let it be, no matter what we face. God has shown his favor on all of us by giving us that gift announced to Mary that day, by giving us that gift of himself, his own son, Jesus, the gift of his presence with us, being made one with us by being born of her flesh and blood, being born a human being. God's salvation is found right there in the very body of Jesus, because in that body, God has chosen to be one with us, to be for us and with us, no matter what. The unconditional love of God filled the womb of that young girl, Mary, was born in Bethlehem, walked among us, was put to death for us, and then rose victoriously from the grave so that we could be united to him forever and ever. Again, no matter what it is that you face today, and I'm sure it is a lot, I pray that Mary, the Mother of God, might come to you and share with you the wisdom and the faith that she had to say, let it be.